An unfit alien princess proves herself, with a human husband by her side. The people of Zithera were known for their strength, intelligence, and strict traditions. Power, skill, and discipline were everything here, and at the heart of this world stood the royal palace, a monumental structure of shining crystal and steel. Inside the palace, in a room filled with polished mirrors and carved stone, Princess Lyria paced back and forth. Her long, dark hair swayed with each step, her violet eyes reflecting worry and frustration. Today was not just any day, it was the day she had to face the Council of Elders, the group that decided the future of Zithera. Ever since she was a child, Lyria had been labeled unfit to lead. She was not as strong as other Zitherans. Her reflexes were slower, her body less muscular, and she often thought in ways others called strange. While her peers excelled in combat and strategy, Lyria preferred books, maps, and studying alien cultures from other planets. She liked to think outside the box, but on Zithera, thinking outside the box was often seen as weakness. Yet, something big was happening. The planet had received a mysterious warning from the galaxy's intelligence network. A fleet of unknown ships, faster and more advanced than anything Zithera had ever seen, was heading toward the planet. If these ships were hostile, they could destroy Zithera in weeks, maybe days. The Council of Elders demanded strong, proven leaders to prepare for battle. Princess Lyria's mother, Queen Velira, was wise and strong, but even she worried. Lyria's brother, Prince Kale, had already been chosen to lead the military response. He was tall, broad, and trained in every combat technique Zithera valued. Lyria, in her mother's words, was a princess of ideas, not of action. Despite all this, Lyria refused to stay in the shadows. She knew her mind was sharp, her creativity unmatched, and perhaps that could save the planet. The question was, would anyone listen? The palace doors opened with a soft hum, and Ethan, a human envoy from Earth, stepped in. Humans were rare visitors to Zithera. They were fragile compared to Zitherans, but clever, adaptable, and surprisingly resilient. Ethan's presence caused a stir in the royal court. He was tall, with short brown hair, bright blue eyes, and a calm, confident demeanor. Unlike most Zitherans, he did not rush to prove physical strength. Instead, he observed, listened, and thought carefully. "Princess Lyria," Ethan said politely, bowing slightly. "It is an honor to meet you." Lyria inclined her head, feeling a spark of curiosity. Humans were strange and unpredictable. She liked that. "The honor is mine, Mr. Ethan. I hope your stay on Zithera has been comfortable." Ethan smiled. "It has. But I have to admit I am concerned about your planet. The fleet approaching it is unlike anything you've seen. Perhaps we can help each other." Lyria raised an eyebrow. "Help each other? How? You are human, and humans are, well, not exactly known for power." Ethan chuckled softly. "True, we are not strong like your people, but strength is not the only thing that wins battles. Sometimes it's thinking, creativity, and adaptability. Sometimes the unexpected works best." Those words stirred something inside Lyria. She had felt that way her whole life, that maybe, just maybe, her way of thinking could make a difference. And now, here was a human saying the same thing. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the Council of Elders, their cloaks shimmering like liquid silver. Elder Terran, the oldest and sternest among them, looked at Lyria with disapproval. "Princess," Terran began, his voice echoing in the high-ceilinged hall, "you are aware of the situation. The fleet is coming. The planet needs leaders who can act, fight, and survive. Are you prepared to fulfill your duties?" Lyria took a deep breath. She could have remained silent, letting her brother Kale take charge. But instead, she spoke, her voice steady. "I may not be the strongest, but I believe I have ideas that can help us survive." "I am willing to try." A murmur ran through the council. Kale's eyes narrowed. "Mother, she is not ready. She does not have the skills to command our forces." Queen Velira remained silent, her face thoughtful. She knew Lyria's abilities were unconventional, but also recognized the girl's courage. Courage alone could not win a war, but perhaps courage combined with clever strategy could. The council continued to argue, but Lyria's eyes were fixed on Ethan. He gave her a small nod, as if to say, "I will help you. Together we can make a plan." After the meeting, Lyria retreated to her private study. The room smelled of parchment and rare Zitheran herbs. She opened a large, ancient book on strategic warfare across the galaxy, flipping through the pages with a focused mind. Her thoughts raced. "If the fleet attacks directly, our ships will be outmatched," she muttered. But if we use the terrain, the storms, and our own technology in ways they do not expect, maybe we can create an advantage. Ethan appeared at the doorway, holding a small device that blinked with Earth technology. I think you're on the right track, Princess. Humans have used surprises and unexpected tactics for centuries. I can show you some techniques, but first I need to understand your strengths and weaknesses. Lyria smiled. Then let's start now, no time to waste. Over the next hours, they worked together. Ethan asked questions, Lyria analyzed possibilities. They drew maps, simulated battles, and brainstormed strategies that combined Zitharan's strength with human creativity. Lyria discovered that her ability to see patterns and adapt quickly was actually an advantage. She had feared being unfit, but now she realized her uniqueness might be exactly what Zithara needed. The next day, Lyria presented some of their ideas to a small group of soldiers. She demonstrated how combining human unpredictability with Zitharan precision could confuse and trap the enemy fleet. The soldiers were skeptical at first, but their doubts faded as Lyria showed simulations and explained the logic behind her plans. Word spread quickly throughout the palace and the city. The unfit princess was taking bold steps, thinking of ways to protect the planet while others relied only on brute force. Some whispered admiration, others muttered doubt, but Lyria did not waver. She had a mission, and now she had an ally, Ethan, the human who believed in her vision. That evening, as the twin suns set over Zithara, painting the skies in fiery orange and deep purple, Lyria stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Ethan joined her, leaning on the railing beside her. Do you really think we can do this? Lyria asked softly. Ethan looked at the horizon where the stars began to sparkle. I do. It won't be easy, and there will be challenges we cannot yet see. But I know one thing, humans and Zitharans working together have a chance, and I'll be right by your side. Lyria felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of hope and determination. For the first time in her life, she did not feel unfit. She felt capable, brave, and ready to face what was coming. And so, as Zithara's citizens slept beneath the twin suns, Princess Lyria and the human ambassador began their journey, not just to defend a planet, but to prove that courage, intelligence, and teamwork could triumph over even the greatest dangers. The fleet was coming. The world was uncertain, but Lyria knew one truth that no one could take from her. She would not be defined by others' doubts. She would define her own destiny. The morning light on Zithara was soft and pale, spilling across the palace gardens. Birds with iridescent feathers chirped as streams of crystal-clear water sparkled between the stones. Princess Lyria stood at the edge of the training arena, her violet eyes fixed on the rows of young soldiers preparing for drills. Their movements were sharp, precise, and powerful, a perfect display of Zitharan's skill. She sighed. She had tried training before as the council demanded. She had lifted weights, run long distances, and attempted combat drills. But no matter how hard she pushed, she could not match the natural strength of Zitharan's. Her body was smaller, less muscular, and less coordinated. Don't be discouraged, said a calm voice behind her. It was Ethan, the human envoy. He had joined her early in the morning, as always. Strength isn't the only way to win a fight. Lyria shook her head. They will not accept me as a leader if I cannot fight like them. The soldiers will follow only those they respect for skill and strength. Ethan smiled gently. Then show them a new kind of skill, something they've never seen before, Lyria frowned. And what kind of skill is that? Ethan stepped closer, his blue eyes thoughtful. Strategy, adaptability, and teamwork. Humans have survived countless challenges because we don't always fight the way others expect. Sometimes we think sideways, sometimes we use what we have in new ways. You can do that, Princess. Lyria considered his words. She had spent her life thinking differently. While her peers followed rules, she questioned them. While they trained their bodies, she trained her mind. Perhaps that was her true advantage. They began their training immediately. Lyria observed soldiers practicing combat techniques while Ethan pointed out ways to improve efficiency. He suggested combining human tactics with Zitharan methods. Notice their pattern, Ethan said quietly. They always move in straight lines. If we can predict that, we can control the battlefield without direct confrontation. Lyria nodded. She sketched diagrams in the dirt with a stick, showing alternate positions for troops, traps for advancing enemies, and safe routes for civilians. Slowly, she realized that her ideas could complement the soldiers' natural strength. Over the next few days, she worked tirelessly with Ethan. They tested new strategies using small drones, holographic maps, and even simulations of enemy fleets. Lyria's mind was sharp, catching errors that others overlooked. She suggested tactics that combined stealth, speed, and environmental advantage. Despite her progress, the soldiers were skeptical. Captain Tharos, a veteran of many battles, shook his head during one of the simulations. "Princess, these ideas are clever but untested. We cannot risk lives on guesses and theories." Lyria met his gaze steadily. "I understand your concern, Captain. But the fleet coming to Zithra is unlike anything we have fought before. Old methods alone will not save us. If we combine your strength with new tactics, we can give our people a real chance." Theros studied her, seeing determination in her eyes. Slowly, he nodded. "Very well. We will try your way, but only under supervision. If this fails, it will be your responsibility." Lyria smiled, feeling a small victory. It was not enough to win the war yet, but it was enough to gain trust. Ethan, noticing her excitement, gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "See, you are making progress already, and you are not alone in this." Training became a daily routine. Lyria woke early to study enemy tactics, while Ethan helped her create hybrid strategies. They ran drills with small squads, teaching soldiers how to use speed, clever positioning, and unexpected moves. Lyria's ideas encouraged soldiers to think creatively rather than rely only on strength. One day, while observing a practice battle, Lyria had an idea. The training field was surrounded by cliffs and narrow pathways. Instead of confronting the enemy head-on, they could use the terrain to funnel them into traps. "This is perfect," she exclaimed. "If the fleet lands near the cliffs, we can guide them through the narrow passages. Our soldiers can block escape routes, and we can control the battlefield with fewer troops." Ethan grinned. "Exactly, and we can use holographic decoys to make them think the area is stronger than it is. Humans call this misdirection. They will be confused before they realize the truth." Excited, Lyria presented the plan to Tharos and a small group of officers. Some were doubtful, but her clarity and confidence won a few supporters. A few soldiers began to train in the new techniques, learning to combine their strength with cunning tactics. While Lyria's physical skills were limited, her mental agility made her a unique leader. She realized that leadership was not just about fighting. It was about thinking, inspiring, and guiding others to work as one. During one late-night session, Lyria and Ethan practiced using advanced targeting drones. The glowing lights of the drones illuminated the dark training arena, creating shadows that danced across the walls. Lyria felt a thrill as she directed the drones, moving them precisely to simulate an enemy invasion. "You have a natural sense for this," Ethan said, impressed. "Most humans would take weeks to understand the patterns. You see them immediately." Lyria smiled faintly. "Maybe because I've always had to think differently. The others expected me to fail, so I learned to observe, to notice what they miss." Ethan nodded. "And now that skill is going to save lives." As the days passed, Lyria's confidence grew. She began to notice subtle changes in the soldiers' attitudes. At first, they mocked her ideas quietly. Then they questioned them openly. And finally, a few admitted that her strategies were effective. Captain Tharos, who had been the most critical, pulled Lyria aside one afternoon. "Princess, I must admit your methods are unusual but effective. The soldiers who follow your drills are improving faster than expected. You may just have a gift for leadership after all." Lyria's heart swelled with pride. She had spent her life being told she was unfit. And yet, here was proof that she could lead in her own way. Ethan watched the interaction with a quiet smile. "See, it's not just strength that matters, it's insight, courage, and creativity. You have all three." Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Training together, brainstorming plans, and working side by side created a trust that neither of them had expected. Lyria had found someone who saw her for more than her weaknesses. Ethan had found someone whose mind could match any challenge. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, they stood together on the palace balcony. The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows over the city. Lyria's body ached, but her spirit was strong. "I feel ready," she said softly, almost to herself. Ethan turned to her. "You are ready. You may not be the strongest, but strength alone does not win battles. You have something more: vision, courage, and determination. That is what makes a true leader." Lyria smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known. For the first time, she did not feel like the unfit princess. She felt capable. She felt prepared. And she knew that with Ethan by her side, she could face the challenges ahead. The next morning brought news of the approaching fleet. Advanced sensors detected ships moving faster than any Zitharan craft. Panic spread through the palace and city. The council demanded immediate action. Lyria stepped forward. "We have a plan," she said, her voice steady and confident. "It is unconventional, but it combines our strengths with strategies they will not expect. If we work together, we can protect Zithara and our people." The council was hesitant, but there was no time for doubt. The fleet was closing in, and decisions had to be made. Slowly, one by one, they agreed to test Lyria's plan. That night, Lyria and Ethan worked late into the hours, refining details, assigning positions, and preparing the soldiers. Lyria's mind raced with possibilities, and Ethan's calm guidance kept her focused. Together, they created a strategy that was daring, creative, and risky, but it was the only chance they had. As the first stars appeared in the Zitharan sky, Lyria stood tall, looking over the city she had sworn to protect. She knew the road ahead would be difficult. The enemy was unlike anything they had faced, but for the first time she felt ready. She felt strong, not because of her muscles, but because of her mind, her heart, and the allies she had gained. The battle for Zithara's future was coming. And Princess Lyria, once called Unfit, was ready to prove that leadership came in many forms, and that courage and cleverness could shine even in the darkest of times. The sky above Zithara was a dark shade of purple, pierced by streaks of pale green light as the approaching fleet neared the planet. It was unlike anything the sensors had predicted. Sleek, silent ships with strange angular shapes and engines that glowed faintly like embers. The citizens below watched nervously as the sky darkened, unaware of the plan being prepared by the unfit princess and the human beside her. Inside the command chamber of the palace, Princess Lyria stood at a holographic map, tracing the fleet's movements with her hand. Her violet eyes were sharp and focused. Around her, officers and soldiers moved quickly, preparing weapons, shields, and ships for the incoming attack. Beside her, Ethan adjusted a small device projecting additional data onto the map. "They're approaching from 3 directions," Ethan said, pointing at the glowing dots. "2 groups are large and heavily armed, and one is smaller, likely a scouting squad. They will test our defenses first." Lyria nodded. "We will not engage them head-on. Follow my instructions exactly, and we can trap them in the northern canyons. It's risky, but we have no choice." Captain Tharrow stepped forward, his usual stern expression softened by curiosity. "Princess, these plans are unusual. Are you certain this will work?" Lyria met his gaze confidently. "I am certain it is our best chance. Trust the strategy and trust the people I have trained. You have strength, they will follow you, but I need them to use their minds too." The soldiers murmured among themselves. Some doubted her, but others, having trained under her direction for weeks, were ready to try her tactics. The first signs of the enemy arrived as small skimmer ships darted above the northern canyons. Their engines hummed softly, almost too quiet for normal sensors. Lyria signaled the Zitharan scouts stationed nearby. "Activate the decoys," she instructed. "Lead them toward the trap zones. Stay hidden until the main force moves into position." Ethan nodded, sending a command through the human-designed interface. Holographic drones flickered to life, projecting illusions of additional ships in the canyons. The enemy ships adjusted their course, taking the bait. "Good," Lyria whispered. "Now we wait." Minutes stretched like hours as the enemy maneuvered deeper into the canyons. The tension in the command chamber was palpable. Every officer watched the skies, every soldier gripped their weapons, and Lyria's heart pounded with anticipation. She had designed this plan, studied the enemy patterns, and trained the soldiers, but now it was reality. Suddenly, a signal came from the northern scouts. "Princess, they've entered the canyon, ready for engagement." "Engage," Lyria ordered calmly. From hidden positions along the cliffs, Zitharan soldiers sprang into action. Energy nets shot across narrow passages, blocking escape routes. Automated turrets, enhanced with human guidance systems, fired precise bursts to disable enemy engines without destroying the ships entirely. The fleet found themselves trapped, confused by the combination of strength, strategy, and clever deception. Ethan watched the holographic map, adjusting strategies in real time. "We need to move faster. Use the side passage to cut off the retreat on their left flank." Lyria nodded, sending rapid commands to her units. Flank them carefully, avoid direct confrontation if possible, focus on control, not destruction. The battle in the canyons was tense. Enemy ships fired sporadically, but their confusion made them less effective. Lyria directed Zitharan forces like a conductor guiding an orchestra, each movement precise and calculated. Captain Tharos, observing from a nearby cliff, finally understood. By the stars, she's not leading with strength alone. She's using their mind against them. Lyria's strategy was working, but not without cost. A small skimmer ship fired a pulse weapon that hit one of the Zitharan squads. Alarms blared as minor explosions lit the canyon walls. Lyria's stomach tightened. She could not protect everyone. But she had prepared her soldiers to adapt, and they responded with discipline and quick thinking. Ethan leaned close to her. "We need a stronger distraction. I have an idea. We can use the canyon winds, channel them through our decoy projectors to create sudden storms. It will mask our movements and confuse them further." Lyria's eyes lit up. "Do it, now!" The plan worked beautifully. Gusts of wind, amplified and guided through narrow canyon walls, stirred dust and debris into blinding clouds. Enemy ships struggled to navigate, their sensors malfunctioning. Zitharan units took advantage of the chaos, guiding the ships deeper into traps and cutting off reinforcements. Minutes passed like minutes of a lifetime. Every second mattered. Soldiers were injured, minor explosions erupted, and the sky above roared with energy from weapons fire. Yet through it all, Lyria remained calm. Her focus was absolute, her mind moving faster than the fleet could react. Finally, the smaller enemy squad attempted to retreat. Lyria acted swiftly. "Block the exit points, no ship escapes." Zitharan forces, following her commands, cut off every possible path. The enemy, overwhelmed and confused, surrendered one by one. The first skirmish was over. Zithara had survived the initial attack. Cheers erupted among the soldiers. Even some skeptical officers approached Lyria with respect. Captain Tharos smiled, a rare expression on his usually stern face. "Princess, your tactics worked. You saved lives today." Lyria exhaled, relief washing over her. "We all saved lives." This was teamwork. No one alone could have done it. Ethan stepped beside her, wiping a smear of dust from his cheek. "You were brilliant. Your mind guided them perfectly. Strength alone could never have achieved this." As the battle ended, Lyria walked through the canyon, checking on soldiers and ensuring the wounded were tended to. She saw bravery everywhere, in the soldiers who followed her plan, in the scouts who risked their lives, and in the humans and Zitharans working side by side. A young soldier approached her, trembling but smiling. "Princess, I doubted you at first, but your plan, it saved us. I will follow you anywhere." Lyria placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Thank you." Courage is not about strength. It's about believing in what you can do and helping others to do the same. That night, as the stars glittered above Zithara, Lyria and Ethan returned to the palace balcony. The city below was alive with lights, citizens celebrating their survival and cheering the princess who had led them. Ethan turned to her. "They will remember this day. They will see you as a leader, not just a princess." Lyria looked up at the stars, her heart full. "I only hope the next battle is not too difficult. The fleet, they will not stop at one skirmish." Ethan nodded. "And we will be ready. Today was the first test. We learned, adapted, and survived. That is what will make the difference in the battles to come." Lyria smiled faintly, thinking of the soldiers, the city, and the lives saved. For the first time, she truly felt like a leader, not by the measure of physical strength, but by vision, courage, and the ability to inspire those around her. The first skirmish had proven something important. Unconventional thinking could match raw power, and humans and Zitharans together could achieve what neither could alone. But the fleet above Zithara was not defeated. Their main force was still approaching, larger and more dangerous than the first wave. Lyria knew this was only the beginning. "We cannot be overconfident," she said, her voice steady. "They learned something from today. We must learn more than they do before the next attack." Ethan smiled. "That is why we keep training, planning, and thinking ahead, and we will do it together." As they watched the stars, a quiet determination settled over Lyria. She had faced doubt, ridicule, and fear, but she had also proven her mind and courage. She had guided her people to victory, however small, and gained the trust of those who once doubted her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, tougher decisions, and perhaps greater danger. But for tonight, the city of Zithara slept safely. And Princess Lyria, once called Unfit, knew that she was ready to lead, not by the rules others imposed, but by the wisdom, courage, and cleverness she had always possessed. The first skirmish was won, but the war was far from over. Yet Lyria felt a spark of hope, a belief that with courage, strategy, and the human by her side, Zithra could survive anything the galaxy threw at them. And in the quiet of the palace, beneath the twin moons of Zithra, the princess and her human companion began preparing for the battles to come, knowing that every challenge would test not only strength, but intelligence, creativity, and the bonds of trust they had built. The city of Zithra was alive with cautious anticipation. After the first skirmish, citizens celebrated, but the tension in the air was undeniable. Scouts reported the main fleet was only days away, a massive force, faster and stronger than anything Zithra had faced. The palace, normally a place of order and ceremony, had become a hub of planning, training, and preparation. Princess Lyria moved through the corridors with purpose. Her violet eyes reflected both determination and concern. She had learned much from the first battle, the importance of strategy, observation, and flexibility, but she knew the next fight would be far more dangerous. Ethan walked beside her, carrying a compact data pad filled with intelligence reports. "The fleet is larger than expected," he said quietly. "We have estimates, but their technology is unfamiliar. We must prepare for anything." Lyria nodded. "We will adapt. That is our advantage. They rely on power and numbers. We rely on creativity and planning." The council convened once more, their silver cloaks glinting in the command chamber. Queen Velira sat at the head, her face calm but lined with concern. Elder Terron's eyes narrowed as he spoke. "Princess, your previous strategy was effective. But now we face a fleet that dwarfs the one you trapped in the northern canyons. Can your methods scale to this size?" Lyria held her ground. "It can, Elder Terron, but we must be willing to think differently. We cannot fight them as we would a normal enemy. We must use every advantage, terrain, technology, and our minds, and we must work together, soldiers, civilians, and even allies from other worlds." The room was quiet. Kale, her brother, looked skeptical. "We risk lives with untested ideas. This is not a game." Lyria's gaze was firm. "I understand the risk, but the alternative, relying only on brute force, will cost far more lives. I am asking you to trust me not blindly, but because I have prepared and because I have learned from the first skirmish." Tharos stepped forward. "I will follow your plan, Princess. The soldiers I command will do the same. I have seen your abilities. They work." Slowly, others nodded in agreement. The council's approval, cautious but genuine, was a victory in itself. Lyria had earned trust, not through strength, but through clarity, vision, and courage. In the following days, Lyria and Ethan worked tirelessly. They devised multiple scenarios, ran simulations with holographic projections, and trained soldiers in hybrid tactics that combined Zitharan combat skills with human ingenuity. One morning, as the twin suns rose over the city, Lyria and Ethan stood overlooking the eastern cliffs. From here, they could see the northern mountains, the forests below, and the city's protective barriers. "We need to divide our forces wisely," Ethan said. "Some units must engage directly, some must create distractions, and some must be ready to protect civilians. Flexibility will be key," Lyria nodded. "And we must ensure communication remains uninterrupted. If the enemy disrupts our systems, we cannot coordinate. That is why we train messengers, both human and Zitharan, to relay instructions manually if needed." They spent hours going over every detail. Lyria suggested unconventional ideas, such as using decoy holograms to draw the enemy into traps and leveraging environmental hazards like electrical storms and narrow passes. Ethan refined the plans, applying human problem-solving techniques to Zitharan technology. Finally, they called a meeting with the key officers. Lyria addressed them, her voice calm but commanding. "The enemy is not invincible," she said. "They are advanced but predictable in some ways. They rely on speed and firepower. We rely on thinking, preparation, and teamwork. We will create confusion, exploit weaknesses, and protect our people. Each of you has a role. Follow the plan, adapt when needed, and trust in each other." The officers exchanged looks. Doubt still lingered, but a few, Tharos among them, gave approving nods. That evening, scouts reported the enemy fleet approaching faster than expected. The twin suns had set, leaving a violet and silver sky streaked with the faint glow of distant stars. Citizens evacuated to protective shelters, guided by trained teams under Lyria's instructions. Lyria and Ethan were in the command chamber, monitoring the fleet's approach. Lights blinked rapidly across the holographic map, showing the positions of enemy ships. Lyria's heart raced, but her mind was clear. "They are splitting into 3 main groups," she observed. "The largest group will attempt a direct assault on the city. The second will flank through the eastern mountains. The third appears to be a scouting and distraction force." Ethan nodded. "We can use that. We can let the largest group believe they have a straight path while we channel them into the trap zones. The eastern flank will face our hidden units, and the scouts, we can mislead them with decoys." Lyria's fingers danced over the holographic controls, assigning units, plotting routes, and setting contingencies. She felt a strange calmness amidst the chaos, a confidence born of preparation and understanding. As the enemy approached, their ships began firing on the outer barriers. Energy shields flared as they absorbed the impacts. Explosions lit the sky, but Lyria remained focused. "Deploy the decoys," she instructed. "Activate the environmental traps in the canyon passes. Lead the eastern flank into ambush points. Maintain communication and do not engage unnecessarily." Zitharan forces moved like clockwork, executing the plan with precision. Soldiers took positions in hidden locations, decoys flashed across the battlefield, and the environment itself became a weapon. The first clashes were intense. Enemy ships were stronger than the scouting force, firing energy pulses that damaged Zitharan's shields. But Lyria's strategy kept them off balance. Troops adapted quickly, retreating and advancing as the plan required. At one critical moment, the enemy attempted to break through the city's southern wall. Lyria made a split-second decision. "Redirect reinforcements from the northern cliffs. Use the canyon winds to slow their progress. Focus fire on engines, not hulls." The maneuver worked. Enemy ships became stuck in narrow passes, their speed and power useless against Zitharan ingenuity. Soldiers cheered as their traps worked perfectly, and the city's defenses remained intact. Even Kale, who had doubted Lyria from the beginning, acknowledged her skill. You were right," he admitted quietly to Tharos. "Thinking matters as much as strength." Hours passed in a tense rhythm of strategy, adaptation, and careful execution. Lyria and Ethan guided the forces like master tacticians, adjusting the plan whenever unexpected events occurred. Civilians were kept safe, soldiers executed commands with precision, and the enemy was gradually worn down. As the main fleet attempted a final push, Lyria and Ethan unleashed their last strategy. Using decoy ships, environmental hazards, and coordinated strikes, they created confusion and panic among the enemy ranks. Ships collided, engines malfunctioned, and those that survived were forced to retreat. The battle ended with Zithara victorious, but not without cost. Some soldiers were injured and the city had minor damage, but the enemy fleet had been repelled. In the aftermath, Lyria walked among her troops, praising their courage and quick thinking. "You all followed the plan, adapted, and protected our people. Today you proved that strength combined with cleverness can overcome any challenge." Theros approached, his expression proud. "Princess, your leadership saved countless lives. You have shown us all that there is more than one way to be strong." Lyria smiled, humbled but proud. "I could not have done it alone. We all played a part and we all learned. That is how we will continue to survive together." Ethan joined her, his eyes reflecting both admiration and relief. "You were incredible, Lyria. Every move was calculated, every decision smart." "Zithara owes you more than you know." Lyria shook her head slightly. "It was not just me. You helped me see possibilities I might have missed. Together we guided them. That is the power of trust and cooperation." That night, under the twin moons of Zithara, the city celebrated cautiously. Citizens cheered, fires lit the streets, and music filled the air. Yet Lyria and Ethan knew the war was far from over. The enemy fleet had retreated, but they would return, larger, stronger, and more determined. Lyria looked up at the stars, feeling both exhaustion and resolve. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The true threat is not defeated. We must be ready, smarter, and stronger for what comes next." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And we will be. We learned from the first wave, adapted during this battle, and survived. That experience will guide us in the next challenge." Lyria nodded. "Then we continue to prepare. We train, we plan, and we grow. We cannot fear the future. We shape it with our actions and choices." Together, they surveyed the city and the surrounding landscape, knowing that the coming days would demand all their courage, wisdom, and creativity. Yet for the first time, Lyria felt that she was not just a princess, not just someone who had been called unfit, but a leader. One capable of protecting her people, facing impossible odds, and proving that the mind and heart could be as powerful as strength and skill. The true threat still loomed, but Lyria, with Ethan by her side, was ready to face it. And as the twin moons shone over Zithara, a quiet promise was made. No matter the challenge, they would face it together, with courage, intelligence, and unyielding determination. The twin suns rose slowly over Zithara, casting long golden shadows across the city. The air was tense, electric with anticipation. Scouts reported the enemy fleet had returned, larger and more organized than ever. Word spread quickly. This would be the decisive battle, one that could determine the fate of Zithara and its people. Princess Lyria stood in the command chamber, her violet eyes scanning the holographic map of the battlefield. Ethan stood beside her, holding a compact data pad, his expression calm but focused. Both were aware that this confrontation would test everything they had learned. "The enemy has regrouped," Ethan said quietly. "They're deploying faster ships and heavier weapons. They will try to overwhelm our defenses immediately." Lyria nodded. "We expected this. That is why we prepared, trained, and adapted. Today, we fight not just with strength, but with intelligence and teamwork. Every soldier, every citizen, every unit has a role, and we will follow the plan, flexibly, decisively, and courageously." Captain Tharos and other senior officers gathered around, their expressions a mix of determination and respect. "Princess," Tharos said, "we trust your strategy. Lead us and we will follow." Lyria smiled faintly. "Thank you, Captain. And remember, adapt, communicate, and protect each other. That is the key to victory." As the fleet approached, sensors detected the first wave of enemy ships moving toward the northern mountains. Lyria and Ethan had anticipated this. The mountains were ideal for creating traps, but the terrain could also be dangerous if mishandled. "Deploy the decoy fleet," Lyria ordered. "Lead the scouts into the canyon traps and channel the main fleet toward the eastern cliffs. Timing will be everything." Zitharan ships surged forward, using stealth and speed to guide the enemy fleet. Holographic decoys flickered across the sky, creating illusions of larger forces and drawing the enemy into prepared zones. Ethan pointed at the map. "The eastern flank is advancing faster than expected. Redirect half of the canyon units to cover the gap. Use the cliffs for cover and fire from above." Lyria nodded, sending rapid commands to the units. The coordination was flawless. Soldiers adapted to new situations, using Zitharan strength and human ingenuity in perfect harmony. The first clash erupted in the canyon passes. Enemy ships fired energy blasts that lit the sky, but Zitharan forces held their positions, using environmental traps and strategic maneuvers. The decoy fleet successfully drew a portion of the enemy away, creating confusion and disorder. From her vantage point, Lyria observed the battle unfold. Each decision mattered. She watched a squad use a narrow canyon as a choke point, blocking 3 enemy ships simultaneously. She noted another unit using camouflage and stealth to disable a larger vessel's engine. Every tactic was part of a larger plan, and it worked. Suddenly, a heavy blast shook the cliffs near the eastern flank. A Zitharan squad was pinned down by enemy fire. Lyria's heart raced. "Redirect reinforcements immediately. Use the canyon winds to cover their movement." Ethan acted quickly, calculating trajectories and environmental effects. "I've adjusted the wind flow. They will have cover to retreat and regroup." The squad moved under the protection of the artificial storm, retreating to a safe position. Lyria exhaled. Every decision was critical, every second counted, but her preparation and adaptability made a difference. Meanwhile, Kale led the central force, engaging enemy ships directly. Though skilled, he relied heavily on Lyria's strategic guidance. When a ship attempted to break through their line, Lyria directed reinforcements to intercept, turning potential disaster into controlled engagement. Hours passed in a tense rhythm of attacks, maneuvers, and clever tactics. The enemy fleet, though powerful, was frustrated by the unpredictability of Zitharan's strategy combined with human ingenuity. Their once coordinated strikes now faltered against a defense that was both flexible and intelligent. At one point, a massive enemy ship targeted the city's energy core, the main source of power and shields. Panic rippled through the command chamber. Lyria's mind raced. She had prepared for this. "Activate the secondary shields and lure the ship into the canyon traps," she instructed. "Use the decoy holograms to mislead its sensors. Focus fire on the engines, not the hull." The maneuver was risky but brilliant. The enemy ship, following the false signals, became trapped in the canyon. Zitharan units fired coordinated energy blasts, disabling its engines. The ship, massive and deadly, was immobilized, neutralized without destroying it completely. Cheers erupted in the command chamber, but Lyria remained focused. The battle was not over. The main enemy fleet still approached, but she could see the tide turning. Strategy and adaptability had shifted the advantage. Ethan leaned close. "You've done it, Lyria. Your plan is working perfectly. They can't anticipate your moves." Lyria smiled faintly. "It's not me alone. Every soldier, every officer, every unit is executing their role. That is what makes this work." As the sun set, casting violet and gold hues across the battlefield, Lyria orchestrated the final phase of her plan. Using a combination of human and Zitharan technology, they created a series of decoy signals, environmental hazards, and tactical maneuvers that completely disoriented the enemy fleet. Ships collided, engines overheated, and communication broke down. The final wave of enemy ships attempted a desperate push toward the city, but Zitharan forces, guided by Lyria and Ethan, intercepted them with precision. Every attack, every defense, every decision was executed with flawless timing. Finally, the enemy fleet, exhausted, disorganized, and unable to overcome Zitharan's strategy, began to retreat. Their ships disappeared over the horizon, leaving behind a battered but victorious Zithara. Silence fell for a moment. Then cheers erupted from the command chamber, the palace, and the city below. Soldiers hugged, citizens celebrated, and even skeptical officers approached Lyria with respect and admiration. Captain Theros approached, his face glowing with pride. "Princess, you led us to victory. Your courage, strategy, and vision saved countless lives today. You have proven yourself as a leader beyond measure." Lyria felt a warmth in her chest. "I could not have done it alone. We all worked together. Strength, intelligence, and trust, combined, they made us strong." Kale, her brother, stepped forward. "I doubted you, Lyria, but today you have shown me the truth. Leadership is not just about strength, it is about thinking, inspiring, and guiding. You have done that and more." Ethan, standing beside her, smiled. "You were incredible. Every decision, every tactic, every adjustment, you led brilliantly. Zithara owes you more than words can express." Lyria shook her head slightly. "It was not just me. It was all of us, humans and Zitharans, working together. That is the real victory." That night, the city of Zithara celebrated cautiously but joyfully. Fires lit the streets, music echoed through the air, and citizens cheered the princess who had led them to triumph. Lyria walked through the city with Ethan, observing the smiles, laughter, and relief of her people. For the first time, she felt that she had truly earned her place, not just as a princess, but as a leader who had earned the respect of her people and proven the value of unconventional thinking. They reached the palace balcony, overlooking the city. The twin moons reflected silver light over the rooftops. Lyria turned to Ethan. "We did it," she said softly. Ethan smiled, taking her hand. "Yes, and this is only the beginning. Together, humans and Zitharans can achieve anything. You've proven that courage, intelligence, and teamwork can overcome even the greatest challenges." Lyria looked out over the city, a quiet pride settling in her heart. She had faced doubt, fear, and overwhelming odds, and she had succeeded. Not through brute force alone, but through courage, creativity, and the strength to believe in herself and others. Her thoughts turned to the future. The enemy fleet might return someday, but Zithara had a new leader, one who would guide her people with wisdom, strategy, and compassion. And she would not face challenges alone. Ethan, her partner, ally, and friend, would stand by her side. The citizens of Zithara, inspired by her leadership, began rebuilding, training, and preparing for a stronger, safer future. Across the planet, the story of the unfit princess who proved herself spread, inspiring young and old alike. Lyria realized something important. Strength was not just physical. It was the courage to think differently, the determination to act despite doubt, and the wisdom to inspire others to work together. And as the twin moons shone over Zithara, she knew that she and her human companion had changed the course of their world forever. They had proven that leadership came in many forms, that collaboration between species could create incredible results, and that even the most unlikely hero could rise to meet the greatest challenge. Princess Lyria, once called Unfit, stood tall, hand in hand with Ethan. Together, they looked toward a horizon filled with hope, possibility, and a future shaped by courage, intelligence, and unwavering trust. The war was over, for now, but Zithra had learned a lesson that would endure for generations. True strength lies not in muscle alone, but in the mind, the heart, and the willingness to stand together. And with that knowledge, Princess Lyria and her human companion prepared for a new dawn, ready to lead Zithra into a brighter, stronger future.